Hello, Monument. It's such a privilege to be speaking to you at this time as we wrestle with some of the difficult things our nation has faced after the death of George Floyd, among others. I'm so grateful for Josh taking the time to so thoughtfully share his experience and perspective. I just found it deeply moving and enlightening. Many of us are thinking and feeling a number of things at this time, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to keep trying to process and understand everything through a biblical lens and in light of Jesus. To that end, as a white person in the situation, it brought up for me memories of the Ferguson shooting 6 years ago. My previous church responded by trying to cultivate dialogue and emphasize ethnic minority voices, lamenting along with them in the midst of the unjust death of Michael Brown, a member of the black community. There were Asian, Hispanic, and of course black voices, and a number of white people participated. It was hard, no easy answers came, but I think we did some good. It was surprising, though, for a white majority church, how many white people didn't participate. When I spoke to groups of white people, there were a range of perspectives, from deep conviction to support and speak out on behalf of ethnic minorities, all the way to, why is this our problem? I don't see it in our church, and I haven't done anything to people that I need to fix. And by the way, all lives matter. In a way, I understand all of these statements because I've thought them all over the course of my life. But now I see the issue far more simply, and it's helped me to take this massive national and really global issue and think about it in smaller terms. Jesus says that the second most important commandment, next to loving God, is to love our neighbor. In Galatians 5:12, Paul says, "For the whole law is fulfilled in one word. You shall love your neighbor as yourself." And we know that's not restricted to the person who lives next door to you, but with the people all around us with whom we share the experience of living. But I think this issue of race in our country right now boils down to love your neighbor. When Jesus was asked by the Pharisee in Luke 10, "Who is my neighbor?" do you know what he said? Well, first of all, in that passage, it actually says, the Pharisee, desiring to justify himself, said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" You see, he wanted to let himself off the hook. He wanted to know that he had fulfilled his responsibility, that he was just doing a great job. But do you know what Jesus said? He told the parable of the Good Samaritan. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers. You know the story. He was badly beaten, and 3 people encountered him on that road: a priest, a temple assistant or a Levite, and a despised Samaritan. The priest actually crossed onto the other side of the road upon encountering the man. I can only imagine what he may have been thinking. Hey, the guy must have deserved it, or foolish man was in the wrong place at the wrong time, or it would be such an inconvenience to try to help this man. I've got somewhere to be right now. Or perhaps the worst, I didn't perpetrate the crime. Why is it my responsibility to fix it? The temple assistant, obviously a religious person, according to one translation, went so far as to stop and look, but then he moved on. And finally, the despised Samaritan stops to help the man and bears quite a burden of sacrifice to do so. The Jewish religious community that Jesus was speaking to had a different worldview than the Samaritans and different faith convictions, which is interesting to me and a sobering picture because we all want to be the Samaritan in the story, don't we? None of us wants to be the very religious person who crosses the street. But what I observe in American culture today is that some of the most non-religious people are speaking out the most vehemently on behalf of the black community, while many Christians are characterizing this as a complex issue that's not ours to fix. But we as Christians are in danger of continuing to walk across the street as our black brothers and sisters lay bleeding on the other side. And I know that sounds strong, but let us not be outdone in care and concern and action by the non-believer. As PJ so beautifully shared from Scripture, we have the greatest reasons to be the most proactive and to make this a simple issue. Our neighbor, George, has been killed among many of our black neighbors before him. And we still have vulnerable black neighbors who live under this constant threat. If you're someone who doesn't worry when your child or friend or parent goes out driving late at night because of the color of their skin, consider yourself fortunate. But now let's help those who do worry for very good reasons about the safety of those they love because of racism. That said, I've loved being a part of my new church, Monument, during this time. I echo PJ's thanks to all of Monument for our focus and attention to this issue right now. Those who showed up for prayer in great force on Wednesday night to lament, to mourn, and to lift these things to God. Our aim since founding Monument has been to be a multi-ethnic church, and that has not changed. Now is such an important time to come together around this. We're continuing to consider further steps that we can take and have many ideas, but this being so fresh, we're still just listening. And as someone who would love to start fixing things as best I can, I'm tempted to talk about those things. But even as Josh so eloquently encouraged, it's really just time to listen. We'd love to hear from you as we continue to dialogue. And in terms of a commitment to really listening, we'd like to point you to some resources on our website. Listening means engaging these resources to learn, to become students of this issue. It's actually such an easy way to begin to make a difference and exercise the compassion of Jesus toward our ethnic minority brothers and sisters. So thank you for listening, Monument. It's been a privilege to have the opportunity to speak with you during this time. I look forward to seeing you again soon.